I see that we're in a new wave, a shift in how things are or can happen in organizations, and it's a generational shift. But it's still going to be decades before it becomes anywhere near a dominant way of working in organizations, particularly with knowledge-based workers and knowledge-based outcomes that we're trying to deliver.
The generational comment is really interesting, and we'll think about that more. But this idea that we have traditionally focused on processes and quantitatively measuring results and conversion of inputs of resources into outputs is, I think, often still how we think and how we teach.
Absolutely. And how we teach, Jan, it's important you mention that, because that's what's sustaining that, what I would say, narrow-minded thinking. It's got its basis in the Industrial Revolution and Taylorism, where back then, 120, 150 years ago, however you want to characterize the start of the Industrial Revolution, the big push came as a result of the relatively free availability of energy, which allowed the world to go from small, literally family-based organizations to large endeavors like building railroads across the country or international communication, airlines. And with it came a lot of the structures that we're familiar with today that we still teach in a lot of domains about command and control and hierarchy and processes. And those ideas are very strong in allowing us to do these massive scale projects that we just couldn't do before when we worked together as a family. Before those ideas came about, and before we had relatively free access to energy, there were no large infrastructure projects in place. So a lot of good things came out of the Industrial Revolution, but that has been almost solely the focus of our education these days. Mm-hmm. And in most organizations, the emphasis remains on process. When we look at trying to improve how we're going to do in organizations, we focus on reinforcing or shifting our process. And that process is a very strong command and control way of thinking. And even these days, in the last couple of decades or so, agile has become very prominent in a lot of organizations. But I would argue that agile is only providing marginal returns because it's still yet another process, the way it's implemented in most organizations.
It's true.
Yeah, and you think agile and a dogmatic process, kind of an oxymoron in how it works, but hey, it keeps a lot of consultants rolling in cash by bringing agile into organizations. But marginally, I don't think they're getting the massive return on investment that they could by focusing on something entirely different.
And it's interesting that you say that, because when we think and talk about sort of Ford and Taylorism and scientific management, we often talk about sort of industrial revolution and assembly lines and the need for not just processes and resources to be standardized so that you can churn out more that look exactly the same, but also for labor to be standardized. So you have people who can operate machines, who don't want to think outside the box, who you train very narrowly and say, here's your task. You'll get very good at it because you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life.
Right. And they become interchangeable. If one person leaves, you can get another forklift operator to drop in there, and there's really no disruption in the overall process. So people are no more than any other asset or resource that's available in the organization.
So I really like that, because as we go through management thinking and we talk about the difference or think about the different perspectives that have evolved since Ford sort of introduced the assembly line, we have all these managerial management by or leading by example. We have business process reengineering, we have agile, and they all really focus in many ways on improving processes and improving outcomes. And so we think about organizations as very rational, as brains and machines. I've seen it referenced to, that generate products and services, or as living organisms. We have all of these combinations that introduce power and politics and organizational culture. But that's, I think, where your work is really important, is in combining these and providing a slightly different lens. And you've written an article that is, I really liked it, so I wrote it down. Let me go find it. Recognizing the importance of power and culture in today's organizations.
Yeah. Actually, as it's been going through the edits, I've revised the title to be Recognizing the Relationship Between Power and Culture in Organizations. And I think that's a really important element there, because what you talk about, Jan, the way we look at focusing on process, and you can still kind of hear it in your language, is that when we look for improvement, we're looking at improving the process of this deterministic, predictable, repeatable structure that we can use to put out product. And that product is going to be, the first one off the line is going to be indistinguishable from the next one off the line. The quality is measured as consistency rather than any of the other measures that I think are becoming more important in a lot of projects today, like innovation and creativity. You're not going to generate a great deal of earth-shattering, differentiating products by going through the path of a deterministic, standardized approach to how you do things. And a lot of the barriers that organizations are facing when they want to be creative and innovative in today's world, they want to really hit it out of the park with their product, is that we are caught in a culture that narrows our focus on what our degrees of freedom are to be different as an organization, to produce different outcomes that we have. Because it's been around for 120 plus years, these ideas behind Taylorism and scientific management, they are our culture for the most part. And culture and language go hand in hand. In the culture of project management, there is a language that comes with Taylorism and command and control and structure and hierarchy and process. And that constrains what we can see as options that are available to us when we need to address an issue or when we want to do something differently. When a project goes south, when a project doesn't work so well, if you're really deeply embedded in this culture, then you're going to focus on things that you have language to express. Oh, we didn't have a strong enough project charter, or we talk about those issues, and we don't talk about, it doesn't come to our mind because it's not part of our culture, the fact that I didn't trust Bob, so I didn't give him the information that he needed to get his job done.